There's a moment in every person's life when the world stops making sense. A moment when everything you built, everything you believed in, everything you worked for crumbles. And you're left standing in the ruins, asking yourself one question. Is this really how my story ends? At 50 years old, Michael Harris stood in an empty apartment, his belongings packed into boxes he couldn't afford to move, staring at a bankruptcy notice that felt like a death sentence. But what happened in the next 5 years didn't just change his bank account. It rewrote everything he thought he knew about success, resilience, and what it truly means to be wealthy. This is not just his story, this is a mirror. And if you're brave enough to look into it, you might just see the blueprint for your own impossible comeback. Michael wasn't always broke. He had been a successful contractor, owning his own business for 23 years. He had the house, the cars, the respect of his community. But then the recession hit. Projects dried up overnight. Clients stopped paying. His savings evaporated trying to keep his employees on payroll because he couldn't bear to let them go. He took out loans, then more loans. He bet everything on one big project that promised to save him. And when that client filed for bankruptcy, Michael's world collapsed like a house of cards. By his 50th birthday, he had lost everything. His business, his home, his marriage. Even his own children looked at him with a mixture of pity and disappointment that cut deeper than any bankruptcy filing ever could. The first 6 months were the darkest. Michael moved into a tiny studio apartment in a part of town he used to drive through without looking. He took a job at a hardware store, wearing an orange apron and helping customers pick out paint colors. People he used to do business with would sometimes walk by, and he'd see that flicker of recognition, followed by the awkward look away. The shame was suffocating, but something happened one Tuesday morning that changed everything. An elderly customer, a woman named Eleanor, watched him help a young couple for 20 minutes, patiently explaining the difference between wood stains. After they left, she approached him. She said, "You have a gift. I can see it. You don't just know things. You care." Then she asked him a question that split his life into before and after. What would you do if you weren't afraid? That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He sat at his tiny kitchen table with a notebook and a pencil, and for the first time in months, he let himself dream again. Not the old dreams of big houses and impressive titles. Something different. Something that felt true. He wrote down everything he knew about construction, renovation, and helping people transform their spaces. Then he wrote down everything he'd learned from losing everything. Humility, resourcefulness, genuine connection, the ability to do more with less. And slowly, an idea began to form. What if he started teaching? What if he helped people who couldn't afford big contractors learn to renovate their own homes? What if his greatest failure could become his greatest service? Michael started small. He offered free weekend workshops at a community center, teaching basic home repair and renovation skills. 5 people showed up to the first one. He taught them how to tile a bathroom, how to fix drywall, how to transform a space on a budget. But more than that, he taught them that they were capable, that they could create beauty and value with their own hands. Word spread. 10 people came to the next workshop, then 20, then 50. Someone filmed one of his sessions and posted it online. The video went viral. Suddenly, people from across the country were asking when he'd do an online course. Michael, who barely knew how to use email, spent every evening for 3 months learning video editing, online platforms, and digital marketing. He invested his entire first paycheck from the hardware store into a decent camera and microphone. The course launched on a Sunday night. He priced it at $47, certain nobody would buy. By Monday morning, he had 37 sales. By the end of the week, over 300. The messages that poured in weren't just about learning skills. They were from people who felt stuck, overwhelmed, powerless in their own lives. People who saw in Michael's story proof that it's never too late, that rock bottom can be a foundation, that losing everything can teach you what really matters. He reinvested every dollar into improving the courses, creating more content, building a community. He hired a young marketing student who believed in the mission, then another instructor, then another. Within 2 years, his online education platform was generating consistent 6-figure revenue. By year 4, it hit 7 figures. And at 55, Michael Harris stood in his new office, not a mansion but a comfortable space full of light and purpose. and realized something profound. He was wealthier now than he'd ever been before, and it had nothing to do with the money. Here's what Michael's journey teaches us. First, your value isn't in what you own, but in what you know and who you serve. When everything was stripped away, Michael discovered his true wealth was in his knowledge, his skills, and his ability to help others. Second, reinvention isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming more of who you truly are. Michael didn't succeed by trying to rebuild his old life. He succeeded by building something authentic. Third, failure is expensive tuition for wisdom you can't learn any other way. Every loss taught Michael something that made his comeback possible. Fourth, community and purpose will carry you further than ambition ever will. And fifth, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is right now. It's never too late to start again. So here's my challenge to you today. Think about one thing you've been putting off because you think you're too old, too broke, too late, or too far behind. Just one thing. And take one small action toward it today. Not tomorrow, today. Send one email. Make one phone call. Write one page. Record one video. Because your comeback story is waiting to be written. And it starts the moment you decide that your past doesn't get to write your future. You do. The world is waiting for what only you can give. Don't make it wait any longer.